All right, another edition of Riding Home. We've got a basic question for you. I'll start with Ryan. Are you concerned or confident about the Georgia Bulldogs?
Oh, can we not be somewhere in the middle? That's
Well,
those are two extremes.
they are
I'm probably
extremes.
right under super confident, right? I'm probably whatever the next step down is from being really confident about them, I'm probably right under
I
that.
want to hear why.
Look, at the end of the day, I think talent wins out a lot, and I think coaching wins out a lot, and they've got both. And I know Brock Bowers is probably, if we're being realistic, is probably not going to play another regular season game. Maybe he gets in there for Tech, but I think they're going to be really careful about how they handle that situation. This is a tough stretch for Georgia, but I think they're capable of doing it.
Yeah, I'm confident in them winning the East, not as confident in them winning a three-peat as maybe I was earlier in the season. They could still do it, and this is a really good team, and I think they'll go into the SEC championship undefeated, and they should win the SEC championship. I think they're going to be favored the rest of their games, and they'll probably be favored against Alabama or whoever they play. So I'm confident they can get the job done. I think without Brock Bowers, other guys will step up and have more opportunities. And I think this is a challenge for Mike Bobo, telling everyone, hey, I can still get this team to 30 plus 40 points without our star player. So I think this is a challenge for them. And the defense, we haven't seen them play their best all season. They were really good against Kentucky, but I think with Small London coming back a little healthier and they could play better, but I still think this is a really, really good team. And I think they're the best team in the country still.
What is so where so if Ryan is particularly confident, Matt is confident with Hedges. What is your biggest concern, Matt, right now in terms of this entire thing? I mean, when you put it on paper, I don't know that there's a team that has as much balance through everything as Georgia in terms of a very good defense, a very good offense, a functional this, a very good that. Georgia, I think their number one issue right now is red zone defense has been pretty, not spectacular, but everything else they're typically top 30 nationally. I mean, you can't say that about Michigan or Florida State or Ohio State, UW, Penn State. It's a little different. So what do you say about that, Matt?
I would say my biggest concern right now is a position group, and it's running back.
Okay.
Dejan Edwards can't carry that load by himself the rest of the season. He's got to have some help. I think Roderick Robinson is coming back, but that's a true freshman. That's kind of a chain mover, bowling ball type at 230. They need Kendall Milton back as healthy as possible. We saw that he was a difference maker when he is 100%. We saw flashes of that in the first half of Vanderbilt, but they've got to get healthier there. You can't rely on Cash Jones if you need a big run against Tennessee up in Neyland or in the SEC championship game. As good as Dejan Edwards is when he's healthy, they still have to get healthier, and he needs some help. So as far as biggest concern, I'd still probably say right now, Ryan, it's the running back group.
Yeah, I think it's just twofold. Injuries in general has affected this team all season long, and it's not stopping right now. And then I think that's hurting their consistency. I think that I think Georgia's looked inconsistent this year. When you pick apart all the games, I feel like that all the performances have been very different, and I think they've had a handful of complete performances, and not that many teams in the country have. But um, I don't feel like I've watched the same team when I watched them against Kentucky and I watched them against Auburn and I watched them against, they just completely different performances each time. So consistency, I think, has also been an issue.
So I think the number one thing that's leading to that is my biggest sort of criticism of this team right now is it is putting the ball in harm's way too much lately. Um, you know, at the beginning of the season, I think everybody was really panicking about the offense, which is fine. It's ridiculous looking back on it, to be honest with you. You're talking about the number five total offense in the country and the number nine scoring offense in the country. So they're definitely getting it done offensively. But I think that what nearly cost them or what put them in real trouble against Auburn was the turnovers. Not just that they had turnovers, but they directly led to points. And then you think about the UAB game. Obviously one of those was a pick six, essentially a pick six from Gunnar Stockton. Yeah, Mekhi Muse, who Kirby expressed a lot of confidence in earlier this week. Asking a reporter, have you ever had to catch punts? Have you ever produced a magazine? I mean, like, I don't, no, just catch the ball, man. That's all. That's not what this is about. I've never, cooked at a 5-star restaurant either. So, but I know what a bad hamburger is. That's my number one complaint right now is really only that the turnovers could cost him in the future. Matt, why are you not confident about is your lack of confidence about Georgia right now a lack of confidence in Georgia or the competitive landscape of college football right now?
Probably the competitive landscape. Like we said in another video, we don't know exactly how good Michigan is because, as crazy as it sounds,
who is their biggest issue? Matt first and then Ryan. Like who is the biggest concern out there for Georgia?
I think whoever comes out of the Big Ten, I think is a really good team. Oklahoma or Texas doesn't really concern me with Georgia. Florida State doesn't, and no one really in the SEC does.
Why are you not worried about Florida State? Because they're not consistent?
Yeah, and I just think Georgia could match up well with them. They haven't played a team like Georgia, but neither has Michigan or Penn State or Ohio State, really. There's just a lot of questions out there, and even against Florida State, and we're midway through this. So I think these teams could be a little better than what we think. Maybe they're not as good as what we think. I just think there's too many question marks out there for me to say, Georgia could run through those teams with ease or even win those games. I think they should be ranked number one because they're back-to-back champs and they're undefeated. They should be number one. But just too many question marks about these other undefeated teams for me to say that they could outright win this championship with ease. They still could do it, but it could be tough. Why do you
keep saying with ease? I mean, nothing about last year was with ease, if we're being completely honest.
It was a little easier in 2021, but I think
and they lost the game in 21.
And they did. But they were crushing teams. They're not crushing those teams this year. They're winning games, which is all that matters. But I do think Michigan is better than they have been. I think Penn State's better. Ohio State's quarterback doesn't scare anyone. I think Oklahoma has a better quarterback, maybe not necessarily a better team. Texas could come back and emerge after that loss, bigger and better. But I just think I like Georgia's chances of winning the SEC compared to winning the national championship.
I kind of think you can make the same case about Georgia as you did for those other teams. They haven't looked quite as dominant as they did the last 2 years, whatever. But for me, it's Michigan is probably the other. Too. I think it's Michigan. I think that they're close to complete, if not a complete team. I think that they can dominate you defensively, and I think they can really score. Is that the most difficult head-to-head matchup for Georgia? I don't know. I don't know that I maybe have watched enough of everybody to say that yet, because I think teams that have quarterbacks that really air it out can give Georgia a hard time, and that's not what Michigan's about.
Why is that something that, I mean, you've discussed this. We all have our things that we talk about. You've discussed that quite a bit. Is that like PTSD from a year ago? Because
it's not Georgia, PTSD. It's just what it is. Georgia's defense has been so talented. They just don't lose to offenses that aren't super efficient and super explosive.
They're only allowing 171 yards passing a game.
I mean, who's the best? Spencer Rattler? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, who's so great at quarterback this year? Michael Penix? I mean, Georgia, if they get a hold of that Washington quarterback, they may break that guy, just like they did to Jaden Daniels.
But I don't think Georgia's defense has looked that shutdown this year. I think that there are holes.
Okay, let me just say this. I don't disagree with that. However, the numbers don't lie, man. I mean,
no, I know. I've been looking at the numbers.
I mean,
too,
the numbers
it's a little surprising when you look at them, but
they're what?
I just think a good quarterback could really hurt this defense.
So would that be
Brady Cook? But I don't think so.
Would that be McCarthy, Penix, Gabriel? The Texas quarterback escapes me. The Florida State quarterback, Daniels. Who is the most dangerous quarterback out there right now? Because here's the problem if you're UW. Okay, and see, here's all the problems, and Matt, you can jump in too. But if you're UW, you are giving up a lot of yards, almost 400 yards a game. UW is. If you are Oklahoma, it would be hard to imagine this, but like their defense is the weekend at Oklahoma. Penn State has been really solid, but they're defensively they're very good. Same thing with Michigan. Penn State and Michigan mirror each other in that they literally have the easiest schedules, 1 and 2 in Power 5 football right now. They both have very dominant defenses and sort of pretty good offenses. They've not been unbelievable. Ohio State, they are struggling to run the ball. They're 92nd in the country running it. Their defense has picked it up lately for sure, but they're not. I mean, you just watch the quarterback and you can see Georgia's biggest problem is what Matt's complaining about. They're top 50 in running offense. That's it. Everything else, y'all, in all these categories is top 21 or better. I mean, the other outlier is team passing efficiency at 21. I mean, everything else except the one thing I'm complaining about, which is turnovers, is top 50. I mean, top 50 is an outlier for them. If you're not top 20 or top 11 for Georgia in these major categories, it's an outlier for sure. Whereas for everybody else, not being top 20 is relatively common. These are really good teams we're talking about. What are we missing here? Or do we have a bias against this year's team based on last year's teams? These last 2 years' teams?
Well, I think we do because they won national championships, but right. that's what we get stuck doing. You can't compare one team to another because they're different teams. And like you said, the numbers don't lie, and the numbers are really good. It's the turnovers by the offense that have put the defense in a bad position. But we've also talked about red zone defense has to get better. So it's not completely on them. But if the offense doesn't turn the ball over and they force teams to go 80 plus yards, 70 plus yards every drive, they're not going to be giving up many points at all. As far as quarterbacks go, Michael Penix could do a number on Georgia's defense for a while. He could also get banged up, like Dean said. But what Dylan Gabriel did against Texas in that game with the entire world watching, he played tremendous, led them back. I think he could be a real weapon. He could be dangerous. Of course, I don't think they're going to see USC this year, but Caleb Williams has enough talent to do that against them. There aren't a whole lot of I don't believe in J.J. McCarthy. Drew Aller at Penn State is a good player. I don't think he's seen anything like Georgia's defense. I think he would have a real issue with Georgia's defense, and maybe Jordan Travis would too. We'll see how good he is against a quality Duke team this weekend. But
he was not good against Clemson. It took him a while to get good against Clemson. Hey, let me just say this real quick. Our friends at EcoPoly are having an awesome sale this weekend right now. Right now, you can go to their factory in Eastman and get these great deals. Let me tell you about them right now. 50% off their fall inventory closeout sale. It starts the 19th. It goes through the 21st. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday and Friday, hours are 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday, it's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The address is 105 Industrial Boulevard in Eastman, Georgia, 31023. They've got all sorts of stuff in their factory closeout. Ryan and I were down there not that long ago. I've messed up the transition here as usual. Ryan, your comments on what Matt was saying a second ago about quarterbacks, etc.
Yeah, I just think that those better quarterbacks and better offenses can score on Georgia's defense. If Vanderbilt can go down the field, they didn't. They scored off a turnover on that one. But if Vanderbilt can score in the red zone on Georgia's defense, I think any of those teams can.
Well, they can.
No,
they
can't.
Point. I think there is reason to have some angst for sure, because why would I be asking this question otherwise? They've not looked like they did last year that we remember, but we are romanticizing last year, first of all. Secondly, it's just the turnovers for me, man. That's really the only. It's not so much turnovers, but like we got Cedric Van Pran picking balls up and converting first down. Like that can't happen. The Carson Beck interception was absolutely for him, mindless. He's a really good quarterback. That was a huge mistake that made that game seem way closer than it was. That game was a blistering blowout, and that one play made it tighter. The other thing, though, the caveat for me is, man, you had quarterbacks go 1-2 that Georgia was either going to play or did play, which was Bryce Young and then Stroud. The guy that's going to go 1 this year is not playing Georgia. That's not happening. And then I don't think Drake May and Carolina are going to get to the playoff, but we'll see. I don't think the level of quarterback is as high this year as we've seen in the recent past. I mean, Max Duggan was no chance. Jane Daniels really was not unbelievable. Go ahead, Ryan. What were you going to say?
I don't know. I don't know about that. I think it's just as good. I don't think that the quarterbacks have dropped off. If anything, they might be a little better as a whole across the country.
Not at the top end. I mean,
I'm talking about throughout. I think that there's a lot
just
better.
I would say that Williams is better than the two from last year, in my opinion. Stroud and Young were very good. And then you had a pretty significant drop off, I guess, right? Well, in terms of NFL talent, they dealt with, what's his name from Florida? Richardson.
I think they might be deeper this year across the board, but as far as top end talent, I think Dean might be right. But I think there's a lot. There's better, good quarterbacks.
That's what I think. It's a deeper field of quarterbacks.
Well, yeah. If you took Caleb Williams and put him on, I would say Florida State, Michigan, I mean, then you'd have a real problem on your hands. But he plays for the one team that is just, not where they need to be with stuff. I think.
Does he care about winning a championship?
Oh.
No. The answer is no.
He acted like that was the case a year ago when we were in New York, but
he's got his eye on the NFL, wants, ownership.
Yeah, he wants equity, man.
Yeah, this guy already had one out there.
He wants equity in whichever team drafts him.
Good luck, buddy.
If they to Aaron Rodgers, they're not giving it to you, man.
First of all, in no scenario would I do that with an NFL franchise. Like, no scenario. Well, I think that's against the collective bargaining agreement, but I'm not. I may be wrong about that, but you can't start doing. I mean that. No, that would be very tricky. But I think in terms of this year's high level quarterbacks. It's not as frightening to me going into the playoff as last year, look specifically with Stroud was, and then you dealt with Daniels before that. I think.
You think UNC could win the ACC?
They
might see Drake May.
They certainly could. Georgia would handle North Carolina, would they not?
I think so too. Yeah.
And that's why it might be so smart to be the one, then maybe you're playing North Carolina rather than, I don't know who to me, Georgia's major competition is Michigan specifically, but it is what Matt said, is whoever comes out of the Big Ten East. And then after that, I don't know, Florida State can beat Georgia, UW can beat Georgia, Oregon can beat Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas. These are all teams that can beat Georgia. I'm just not sure how confident I would be that they will.
Would Michigan be favored if they played Georgia this weekend?
Right now, on a neutral, no, but it would be pretty low.
What about any team?
Any team would probably be no on a neutral field, but Michigan would be certainly within a field goal. I would pick Georgia to win that game, but I do want to watch Michigan play a legitimate game. Georgia to me has played 3 legitimate games. Florida State has played 3 legitimate games. Michigan has not played a legitimate game yet. And so, the Big Ten West is really bad, and we're seeing that with some of these scores from the Big Ten. Anyway, that's what our question was. Are you confident or concerned? And it sounds like we had 20 minutes of both.